I'm Ellie Hamby, and I am co-author of our new book, Here We Go, with my good friend. And this is our first big book we've ever done. And we are travelers. We're humanitarians. We met doing humanitarian service. I'm director of medical mission, and Sandy showed up as one of our doctors.
Well, I'm Sandy Hzelip, and actually, we met at a medical missions workshop in Dallas. My husband had been dead 6 months at that time, and before he became ill, we had had a visiting missionary, and my husband was so impressed with him. And when we got home that evening, he said, Sandy, we ought to start taking our grandchildren on mission trips in the summer. Well, I'm a busy doctor. I don't have time for mission trips. But I didn't say that to my husband. So I said, what kind of mission trips? And he said, well, I don't know, honey, but I'm sure there's something we could do that would be a benefit to missionaries, and it would be a great experience for our grandchildren. So he had planted that seed in my heart, and 6 months later, he died. Well, no, a few months later, he died. And he had been dead 6 months when visiting emergency room physician at my little hospital in Eastland um, happened to tell me that he was going to a medical missions workshop in Dallas, Texas the following weekend. And I thought, why is he telling me that? So I found myself at the medical missions workshop, and I was still struggling after just 6 months of losing my husband. And I looked around and I thought, I don't really think this is for me. And I thought, I'm going to leave. And I saw this sign that said Africa, and I knew I did not want to go to Africa. So I started heading toward the door. And a rich voice behind me said, hello, my name is Kelly Hamby. What's yours? And I turned around, and his smiling wife was standing next to him. And I introduced myself, told him my name, and he said, well, let us tell you about our mission in Zambia. And I said, don't waste your time. If I go on a mission trip, I need someplace that's very safe because I'm going to be taking grandchildren. And in unison, Ellie and her husband said, oh, Zambia is very safe. We take our grandchildren every year. So that's how I started going to Zambia Medical Mission. First of all, my husband's idea of camping out was staying at the Holiday Inn instead of the Hilton Hotel. Okay. So I didn't travel the way Ellie and her husband had traveled. And she would tell the stories of their travels, and it just sounded so intriguing. So one night when I was here doing late night work on charts and things, I just mentioned to her, Ellie, I have always wanted to ride the Trans-Siberian train. Do you think that's something that we could do together? And of course, she picked up on that, and that was the beginning.
And of course, we were doing it second class. We actually knew the same man in Russia it was Israel from Nigeria. Okay. He was a medical doctor in Nigeria. He had moved to Russia and was working in tourism or something, but we had met him through our church earlier. So we knew Israel. So we contacted Israel because we never do travel agents. We do our own thing. We like to be kind of in control. And I think we're confident enough we can figure it out. And but we contacted Israel, said, hey, we want to buy second class tickets to the Trans-Siberian. And we knew it was going to be cheaper if he bought them than us buying through some big agency here and paying up and all that. So Israel picked us up he did that. He picked us up at his old Lada at the airport in Moscow, and it broke down on the way to the train station and all that. And we were on the side of the road, quite an experience. But he got us there to our Trans-Siberian second class. And when we got there, what was, I mean, our whole car was full.
Filled with the local people. And I'd been to Russia on some mission trips. So I had on my computer pictures of Russia. And I had pictures of little things for storytelling for young children. So I would sit out in the hallway because we had a little compartment, but I would sit out in the hallway, and the children would gather around, and I would show them pictures on the computer. And we had so much fun.
It was quite. Of course, we had our wild experience with KGB. when
Tell us
after we
about
had,
that.
yeah. So what happened was that all the way through Siberia, till we got to Lake Baikal, it was, packed. Our car was just full, party, having fun, talking, eating, whatever. And then we stop in Lake Baikal for about 3 days, and then we get back on the train headed towards Mongolia, and there's nobody in our car, and we're thinking this is really strange. We're the only ones. What happened to all our party? The fun times we were having. We get to the Mongolian border, and they stop and ask for passports, and of course, and to ours, and then I hear them say passports again.
Down the hall a little ways.
Yeah, and so I thought, well, being very inquisitive, I had to go figure out who was down there. I go down, the door's open. There's a Russian man in his pajamas on the bed. It's the middle of the day, and he's not engaging. I try to smile and make eye contact, nothing. And so I just turn around and go back to Sandy. There's still a guy down there. Pretty soon we hear this commotion. And here comes the KGB. They're into Pajama Man. That's what we called him, Pajama Man. And Pajama Man's compartment, they're taking down ceiling tiles in the hallway. They're rummaging through everything. And Pajama Man pretty soon goes out,
Gets escorted off the train
in
and
handcuffs. So now we're thinking, oh, well, that was interesting. Well, guess what? We were next. Here comes the KGB to our compartment. What did they do?
they said, "You are the only witnesses to the crime."
Well, at first say not the witnesses. They're thinking we're on part of the crime because then they searched us.
Yeah.
Yeah, they searched our compartment just like
Right.
Pajama Man's. I mean, took down ceiling tiles, luggage, looked through mattresses, you name it, they did. But
They didn't
didn't
find
find anything. We were so afraid Pajama Man may have left something in our room or something we didn't know at our car, our compartment. And so then so they left, and then they came in. And what did the KGB woman say?
You are the only witnesses to the crime. And we said,
What crime? We know nothing, but they said you're the only witnesses. You must come back to testify, so we have to get all of your information. I can tell you, if you're on the border in between Mongolia and Siberia, and the KGB wants your phone number, your email address, we sang like two little American birds. We just were telling them everything. But to this day, they haven't called us.
in anticipation of getting old
Mm-hmm.
and turning 80, I mentioned to Ellie one evening, wouldn't it be fun to go around the world in 80 days at age 80? Well, Ellie picked up on that. She organized everything. We had every hotel reservation made, every airline reservation made, and COVID shut it down. But COVID didn't shut
No.
us down. So we made our trip the following year, and our theme was around the world in 80 days at
81 and still on the run. Whoops, we lost you.
Can't hear you.
The mute button there.
Yeah.
Got accidentally hit. The geography, take us inside for the layman that's just picking this book up. Where did it begin in terms of planning? Because you planned trips by then. What expertise did you put into strategically mapping this one out you could discuss a little bit of?
Well, Sandy said, we first said if we're going around the world in 80 days, we're going to do a whole lot more than Phileas Fogg. We're just not going to circumnavigate in the, just a nice circle around the world. But we basically, when we first decided to go to all 7 continents.
So one evening, I sat on one side of the kitchen counter. Ellie sat on the other side with her computer, and I was with mine. And I said, Ellie, name all 7 continents. I typed them up. I said, Ellie, name all of the major cities Phileas Fogg went to on his trip. I typed those. I said, Ellie, name all the different world wonders. I typed those. We had those lists, and then we got out the globe and started making our plans.
We literally took a globe on my kitchen table and said, look, we can go from here to here to here. When you look at it now, we really zigzagged around the world. Okay, we go up here, down here, up here, whatever, but we did it.
From Antarctica to the Arctic Circle and all the way around.
One thing, we travel very light, obviously. If we and we're since we're independent, there's nobody, no tour leader taking our luggage here. We're responsible for it, so we traveled as light as you possibly can. We did always have a check piece, and amazingly enough, we never lost a piece of luggage. Don't know how that happened, but we did not lose any luggage at all. And so, number one, I think we were compatible in traveling light. And the second thing is, we both just love people. And that's what gives us energy every day is the people that we meet. And because we're independent and not on a tour, we have nothing wrong with tours. And we actually did one because we were gifted one this year actually. And it was great. But the people that we met were tourists. But when you're two old women traveling by yourself, do you know who you're meeting? It's the locals. And that's what gives us joy.
Yeah.
And it's that just really, we just love that. And we are two different personalities. I'm more adventuresome, Sandy's more precautious.
I
But
tell her I'm a doctor. I practice preventive medicine, and she's snorkeling in the Great Barrier Reef.
when we started our trip around the world in 80 days in 81, the only people knew we were doing it a week before was our family and friends. And we just happened to be speaking at a nursing retirement center. We often have been speaking before about our trips, and they had invited the local CBS TV station and here in Abilene, which is not huge. And they ran a feature that night. We get to the airport. We get to the Dallas airport. We're getting our boarding pass. There's a phone call from NBC5 Dallas, the largest TV station in the Metroplex. Where are you? We have a crew on the way. And then we arrive in Buenos Aires, and CBS News has an email for us. We want this story. And it just exploded. We had not a clue when we first, until really the day we left on our trip, that we were going to be, people were interested in.
And then tell him how the book came about.
Well, yes. And then we thought this would be great. We never really thought about writing a book. We thought it would be a good thing, but we were too busy traveling. But a week after we arrived back from our journey, we received an email from a literary agent in New York City, and she was former vice president of Simon and Schuster. We looked her up, and she had several best-selling novels, and she said, this has to be a book, and I want to be your agent. And we checked it out and we signed. I mean, now we have 84-year-old women with an agent we talk to almost every day, but she has our back, and that's great. And so then we started the process of writing a proposal. And in the meantime, we were featured on the Sunday edition of the New York Times. And when that came out the next week, an executive editor from Penguin Random House sent us an email, said, I just read your article. The world needs this voice. We would love to be your publisher. I mean, we were ever authors' dream that, that this would they're coming chasing us. I feel for all these authors that work years trying to get recognition, and it just fell in our laps.
So when we finished our trip, we averaged the whole 80 days that we were gone, and the average cost of our hotels for 80 days was $29 a piece per night for hotels, and that usually included breakfast the next morning.
And these were just the most amazing places. You don't have to, around the world, there are these gyms in the desert. I mean, they're just there. And honestly, we use booking.com. We say they should hire us. I don't think they even know about us. But first thing we do is go for location. Number one, you've got to be at the right location. You need to be in a relatively safe area. And then second, we go for rating. Ratings are huge when booking a combination because price has nothing to do with that rating. And then after we've got the location, we've got the rating, we sort by price, and we find some of the most amazing little hotels and inns. And Sandy, tell them about the cheapest one.
Our cheapest hotel while we were gone was in Cairo, Egypt, and it was $13 a night per person. But let me tell you how we got there. Our taxi dropped us off at at the entrance to the alley. And I looked at him and I said, "We're supposed to get to our hotel walking down the alley." And he said, "Oh, yeah, you'll see a gate. Just rattle the gate and they'll let you in." And we did.
And we did. We rattled the gate. Here came a man. There were four brothers, obviously, and their parents had passed away. They turned their six-story home into an inn. And the most beautiful thing was on the rooftop. We go up there every evening and we watch the light show on the pyramids for free on our rooftop of our $13 a night hotel, drinking a nice cup of tea and just enjoying the light show for free. And people could say, well, aren't the places, are they clean? Every place we've ever stayed, as long as that rating's good, they're going to be clean.
Right.
Clean sheets, very nice, not holes in the walls or anything like that. They are just lovely, small, little respectable places that you can stay in. I think mine was the Antarctic. There is nothing like standing on the ground in the Antarctic and looking at those ice mountains, those icebergs, and the penguins just running everywhere, and the sea lions and the seals and all of that is just, as I said, it's just an Oz moment. It's just one of those awe moments in your life when you're just standing there and thinking, how fortunate am I to be standing here where no human beings live full time and gazing upon such a magnificent sight.
And then my favorite, I mean, I loved it. We both loved everything, but if I had to choose a favorite, I love the island of Bali. Oh my gracious. I grew up in Fort Worth, Texas, and in a rather poor family. And back in those years, not many people had pretty lawns or pretty flowers or anything like that. And so when we would get together as an extended family, we would go to the Fort Worth Botanical Gardens and walk through the gardens and get family pictures made. We landed on the island of Bali, and it was one botanical garden after another. It was just the most gorgeous thing I had ever seen in my life. I took a picture of one of the places and sent it to my son and with a text, and I said, "Do you think that I could get the man that works on my yard to make my lawn look like this?" And he said, "In West Texas, Mom, are you kidding?" And it was just gorgeous.
The place I think that both of us that where we connected with the people the most was in Syria.
Yes.
We were sleeping in a Bedouin tent in the Syrian desert the day
in 2011.
Yes, that was the day the war had started. About a couple hours after we had left Damascus. But we had already met some of the most wonderful people. The Syrian people were so nice to us, and actually and we made such good friends. And I think one of the things why it stands out, I mean, they got Muhammad, or no problem Muhammad, got us out of Syria. We were able to get money breaking through where they were lined the plaza with AK-47s in Damascus to get us some money to pay our bills for our hotel. And then Muhammad said, "I've arranged for a white unmarked car be parked on the side of the road with the door open and a man standing there. And you just get in. When you see that, you get in that vehicle and it will take you across the border." We saw the car, the man was there, we got in, no questions asked, and it took us across the border, got us out of Syria and into Jordan. We never left the car. I don't know what he did. He took our passports and came back about an hour later. And so those people touched our heart, I think, because of what we just don't even know what's happened to them.
Right.